Taliesyn is a design and architecture firm based in Bangalore who believes that interaction is the basis of their work in design. For they believe that there is always this constant interaction between people and objects, and also people and buildings. And this thinking allows them to constantly evolve in the concepts, be more intact with spatial quality and emotional sensibility in architecture, and also give meaningful solutions. And I'm joined today by Shalini Chandrashekar, the principal architect of Taliesyn, to talk about uncovering people and emotional connections within architecture. So thank you so much, Shalini, for being here.
Thank you so much, Karina, for having me and this wonderful introduction that you gave me. Yeah.
Perfect. So can you tell us about Taliesyn and how it started?
As you said, we are based out of South India, and we started about 10 years ago as a very small 3-number group. It so happened that me and my partner, we were working separately, under senior architect. And it so happened that we collaborated on a mutual project for a friend of ours. And the project was so successful and the client was really satisfied. And one thing led to another. And it was a very organic way that we grew from project to project, strength to strength. And so this has been our journey. Yeah, so we wanted to do something very interesting, and we were always interested in the human form and how people and buildings interact with each other. And this is something that is evident in our practice, and I think we've been successful in a small way to create such spaces.
That's exciting. So, although we also mentioned your firm's design philosophy in the intro, we want to hear it from you. What is your firm's design philosophy, and also how do you first approach a project?
So our design philosophy is mostly human-centric. There's this connection between humans and buildings, and we as designers, we are always dealing with this interaction all the time. It's very interesting to know how a space can affect human psychology and vice versa. We put in a lot of research and we observe how people react with the spaces, with the materials, with scales, with volumes, and we kind of create a brief for ourselves with every project, keeping in mind of the user, which is the most important, purpose of the space, the context, the space, the location, the surroundings, the density, the natural elements, and we try to create a solution that is adaptive and which addresses all the aspirations, keeping in mind the contextual fabric.
Right. So you started with a brief and then go on with programming, yeah? Programming with the users, what kind of spatial qualities they want. So what do you think factors that go into the decision of what makes a good spatial quality that you produce?
Okay, spatial quality, I think, is broadly determined by how we perceive a space through the eyes of the user. We are, in fact, facilitating a lifestyle or a routine. Even a simple routine like cooking or sleeping, and how it can be made more experiential is something that it interests us, and we try to create such atmospheres which facilitate these experiential spaces. Of course, when you're talking about how to create these, some of the factors that come into my mind are the volumes and the scales, materials, and how we are framing the views. Of course, your illumination, the temperature, and how all these factors can be orchestrated to create a special specific spatial narrative.
That's great. So, do you think the space designs inform a certain behavior and interaction, or is it the other way around, where a certain behavior and interaction inform the space design, or is it a constantly evolving cycle that like needs to be reevaluated and it keeps on changing every time?
Human-centered design isn't just a trend or a methodology, but it's a solution-based approach to optimize the relationship between people and building. And in this quest to create solutions for problems or opportunities, by focusing on the needs, behaviors, and emotions of the people, I think it's more successful when we consider all these things, and it has a positive effect not only on the people as well as the surroundings. A simple design which includes greenery into the space has a positive effect on the person. Something like this here, we've created this whole dining space and you have greenery all around and you're facing the pool. It kind of creates a very, different experience with every part of the day, be it the morning sun rays or the evening sunset. With each passing time of the day, the experience is very different. So
Right.
this is something that we like to focus on, and it's we would like to pursue it further in our designs.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned that there's always a feedback, right, between the users and the space. So how can people's connection with buildings, so like with a space like this, keep on changing? And how can architecture facilitate such interaction?
Yeah, so the human behavior and moods are constantly changing, and so is the relationship between the user and the space. The adaptive nature of the space is successful when it caters to these changes. Example, with this bedroom, we have the lowered doors as the skin throughout the space. When opened up, it creates an expansive open space and engages the user with with his proximity to nature. And whereas the second image will show you how the room feels with closed doors, it creates a very small, cozy, warm space for the user. And the changing spatial qualities cater to those specific needs and moods.
Maybe going back to fostering connection, right? How does
Yeah.
one nurture and foster a connection with design? So with a space and also something beyond the space. So maybe you showed a space with a view, a space with certain qualities like the sun rays or like the environment. How can one foster a connection with those?
Yeah, so space is merely one, but atmosphere is the one which creates these beautiful mental images or memories. So, with the right atmosphere, it has a very profound effect on this human psychology, on the human behavior. And when a person connects with space, it's not only just the functionality or adaptability. It's more about the smell, the tangibility,
Right.
the temperature. As you can see, this kitchen, it's also being functional and practical is one of the aspects, but it becomes like a communal space wherein the people can engage with each other while cooking a meal or even having or eating the food. It's this memory of cooking and having a meal together which creates a powerful memory. And apart from just the food, there's the smell, there's the sound, vessels, or even the coffee brewing or the smell of food. So these are the kind of memories that gets registered into our minds, and it does the space becomes much more than that. So the design, becomes much greater.
Yeah. It might be so simple, but like you said, the memories are what makes us remember that space more than what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So nice. So how, also, how can material choices enhance emotional connection to space?
Okay. Materials are the skin of the space. They can have a great impact on our memory and how we connect to this space. And architecture design can generate a meaningful situation for them, and wherein they can assume this poetic quality. Materials are beyond rules of composition, tangibility, smell, acoustic qualities, and when they are used carefully and cleverly, they can vibrate in a space. So especially when we talk about vernacular materials, what you can see here is the kitchen with the oxide flooring, and somewhere it takes back, transports us back to our ancestral house where this was used. A while ago, these were the materials that were used more widely, and of course, with the advent of new materials, these materials kind of took a backseat. What we try to do is recreate that oxide flooring. We got in people especially to do that kind of work, and every time we see that, it kind of reminds us of our ancestral home, and in a way, we have that emotional connect. And also, as a material, it the kind of patina that it develops over time, it might
Right.
stain, or it might get these cracks. It kind of captures those memories. It's more like it becomes a part of our memory, I can say, and it kind of strengthens our emotional connect.
To the space.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the time we were there. Yeah, I think now it's about exposing the rawest form of a material, right? How can we like really connect with those intangible qualities then that a material can have, such as maybe wood or bricks? They're like a lot, they feel a lot warmer, but
Yeah.
if you if you have to like explain exactly how, it's hard. It just feels warm.
Exactly.
So, what is sustainability to you, and how can we build better and more responsibly?
For us, it's more a state of mind, and which, when inculcated, reflects in our every step and every action. And I feel as designers, we are kind of responsible for our intervention to have a positive effect on the people and on the environment. It's all about making simple organic changes, careful planning, good management in achieving this. Some of the things that could help in creating a sustainable design is local materials, sourcing from a small radius, the kind of material choice. When we choose a certain material, it's important to know where it's coming from. Also, if you see the wall in the middle, the stone wall, we've kind of reused the stone from a foundation of a different building. And even the furniture, some of the furniture that we've used, we've kind of made it out of the waste from the quarries. And of course, in this project, a particular project, we've kind of removed all the unnecessary walls. We've kind of opened up all the space that ensures good ventilation, and overall, the maintenance cost comes down, the dependency on mechanical ventilation or illumination comes down. When you the maximum utilization of natural materials it kind of ensures good resource management using renewable power resources like your solar, recycled water, that has a positive impact not only on us and also the surroundings. Even the landscape, when you talk about a landscape, when you use native species, that's also one of the ways to be sustainable. When you upcycle furniture, reuse it. Uh, there are many different ways where we can ensure that the design is more sustainable and our intervention is a positive one.
Right. Yeah, I really like how you take this sustainability view holistically. Like you may think that an architect is just a designer of the space, but
Yeah,
really an architect is an orchestrator of like, natural resource of procurement or like replacing. So an architect really is it plays a bigger role than just designing the space, but
yeah. So
um
it becomes our responsibility to ensure that we take probably tiny steps to ensure that's done.
yeah. Perfect. So it's a perfect segue also to our last question, which is how do you think should the architecture profession be perceived moving forward?
Okay, so architecture in the future is going to be more collaborative as it is headed towards right now. And we are heading towards being more specific, detailed in our approach. So I see a lot of specialists, for example, environmental science, social anthropology, will become active members of the design studio. Of course, sustainable architecture will hold the key to an environmentally positive future. Only by living more economically with our resources can we hope to protect our environment and climate. And with regards to residential architecture, the concept of interconnectivity and smart design will redefine the way living spaces are created. And of course, transformable spaces that adapt to the homeowner's age, economic status, and personal reference will become more mainstream. So these are the things that we, perceive design will be moving forward.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much for this meaningful conversation and for reminding us that it is only when we dive into the emotional, physical, and you said before the intangible realms that we can really establish meaningful connections with our work, with buildings, with other people in the building, with other objects in the building. So thank you so much, Shalini.
Thank you.